From flooding to infrastructure to his own re-election bid, I speak exclusively one-on-one with State Representative David Mack for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores and listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Representative David Mack, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you again, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly.
Oh, great to be here.
Thank you. On my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And as we all log on Facebook all the time, there's this particular question, what's on your mind?
Mm-hmm.
When you think of the political scape right now going on in South Carolina, what is on your mind?
I think the main thing that's on my mind is, and it's a cliche, but a lot of times cliches are cliches because they're true.
Right.
Let's come together. I mean, we can have philosophical differences, we can have political differences. That's normal, that's the process. But we're so divided right now as a country. Let's come together and I know assume is a dangerous word. Let's assume, hopefully, prayerfully, that we all, whether Democrat, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians, we all want the same thing. A good educational system for our children, well-paying jobs, great business opportunities, business to succeed, people to have health care, infrastructure, roads and bridges, clean air, clean water, housing, good housing, great opportunities for everybody. This is America. And right now we're losing that for so many of our younger people and those that are not so young. So we have to go back to the basics and understand that we can have philosophical differences, but let's move our community, our state, our country forward.
A couple of things. Matter of fact, you talked about infrastructure. As you know, this is a big debate right now going on about the potential 526 extension project. When you look at that, where does your mind go to?
Balance. I'm conflicted with so much of this as relates to the Low Country.
Okay.
Charleston County has 55 to 60 people moving in per day.
Right.
Per day. And the things that we love about the Low Country are marsh, our space, our land, being able to get in your automobile and move around. Things that we love about the Low Country, we're losing. We're losing. So that's problematic. I used to get a lot of folks upset or puzzled at the very least. Even about 15 years ago or so, I used to say, well, let's think about the M word, moratorium on growth, So, we're building on marshland right now. That's why a major reason the flooding is so bad, besides science, climate change, the water has no place to go. We're building on marshland, we're building on every open space we have. So right now, the downtown Charleston, the peninsula, it'll even flood sometimes just with high tide. Just with high tide, not even rain. So it's a problem.
And you talk about that flooding. Obviously, the legislative delegation from Charleston County will have their first task force meeting tonight at 6 at North Charleston City Hall. What do you want to hear from them?
Well, I think we're going to have to get, as I said, some practical aspects as relates to growth. And it's not easy because, again, developers are motivated. Let's get this done. Let's get the check. Let's move. But we're going to have to get some balance. Again, there's a reason that those of us that choose to live in the Low Country, to live in South Carolina, there's a reason that we live here as opposed to some of the large northeastern metropolitan cities. And we have to be able to protect that. So growth, I understand, development, I understand, but we're going to have to get a balance as it relates to that and not overdo it.
And you obviously, when you talk about the Low Country, there's a big debate right now about offshore drilling. Where are you with this discussion?
I'm against offshore drilling. Again, it's the beauty of South Carolina. One drop of an oil spill can ruin an ocean, can ruin the fish, the shrimp, everything that we have there, everything that makes South Carolina beautiful. So we have to be concerned about that. But there's a way to do that along with making sure that we have job opportunities, business opportunities, that we're working to raise the minimum wage. You know, one of the things I'm concerned about right now, Quintin, is we have young people that have it tougher than what people my age had. And every generation is supposed to have it better based on what the former generation did. I know my generation benefited tremendously, and generations before that. Right now, it's worse. It's one of the things I call the Big Eight. The Big Eight are expenses that people will have throughout life, from when they start out to when they die. Lights, insurance, taxes, food, house, car, water, phone. The Big Eight. And right now, there's so many young folks can't even afford to get a roof over their head. There's young folks that really dedicate themselves to go to college, and they finish college, they have a mortgage, to pay off, essentially. So it's a tough situation. So we're going to have to really change that dynamic for young folks, because again, I don't think we've done right by them as a society.
And you talk about electricity. I know the Scanner Dominion Energy, the merger is supposed to happen sometime soon. And I know they're having a meeting tonight at the Charleston County Council headquarters. Mm-hmm. How do we get here with the controversy over that?
A bad situation. And I will say right from the beginning, I had a bad vote. You know, I think a lot of times, politicians don't like to say they made a mistake. I made a mistake. I voted for the nuclear aspect of it based on the information that we had, but 90% of the people in the legislature did. But I think one of the things with Scanner that was really damaging, there's a report called the Becknell Report, and it's coming out more and more now, where we did not get critical information as relates to that nuclear facility. Even when it was going bad, they did not share information with us. They withheld information from us in the public. They wanted to pay the shareholders. Consequently, the cost kept going up and up and up till it got to $90 billion. And we're in the situation that we are right now. So that was very, very problematic to me, and to a lot of folks. So, and more stuff is coming out that was hid from not only us, but the general public, but especially us in the legislature. So the question now is how do we fix it? And the thing that I've constantly said to ratepayers, I was on the ratepayer committee, and we've for in a bipartisan way to make sure that the ratepayer is not penalized anymore economically, that their rates actually come down from what it would have been. Trying to do right by the ratepayer at this point. I've often said there's no way we're going to go back and make them whole. That's not going to happen because the fiasco is too large. But we are situated where we are able to fix them at this point.
And you talk about fiascos and obviously investigations. Let me take you down the street to 75 Calhoun Street. As you know, people are still having more questions about the alleged case between Marvin Gappers and students at within the Charleston County School District. When you hear that, where are you emotionally?
Oh, I'm torn up. I'm torn up. The members of the Charleston County School Board, and there's a lot of people running right now for the school board, they are fighting through that. The number one thing with children going to school, and my children went to school and what have you, is we have to protect our children. If nothing else, we want them. They have to be safe. And with the tragedies as relates to shooters coming into schools, but when you have an employee doing those type things to children. It should have been caught. It should have been caught. So the vetting process, the accountability process, people being on top of folks to see exactly what's what, they're going to have to do a better job as it relates to that, because that, when your child is being harmed by employees of the school, that's inexcusable.
And let me get back to, obviously, politics, because it's that time of season now. Mm-hmm. Everyone's running for something. Mm-hmm. When you look at the races right now in your particular party, who has your eye?
Well, I think, what I tell folks simply is this. I'm a Democrat.
Sure.
All right. But people are shocked when I say, had I been born before 1947, I would have been a Republican. Why? It's what's in your best interest. This is business. What's in your best interest? The political parties basically are a way to get elected, and they have philosophical stands, if you will. So being a Democrat in this day and time, 2018, there are positions that you can look at consistently. And I tell folks to pull, I've served, I'm up for re-election, right. But everybody's up for, pull their voting record. A voting record is like a fingerprint. You can't run away from it. Did you vote for health care? Did you vote for things that relates to public education? Did you vote for things that relates to economic development? You can pull those things. I think the worst thing, in my 22 years in the South Carolina State Legislature, the worst thing we ever did was we turned away money for Medicaid expansion. And the Democrats and some Republicans voted for it. It did not survive a veto by then Governor Nikki Haley. So what happened when we turned that Medicaid expansion money away from South Carolina? We didn't save the federal government any money. It just went to other states. That's insane. We wound up closing rural hospitals. We wound up with about 1,300 people a year they estimated would die because they didn't get health care. We wound up with losing around 50 to 60,000 jobs, well-paying jobs, with regards to our money, our federal money. We are the United States of America. We're not a separate entity here in South Carolina. We're part of this great country. So that was, I think, the worst thing I've ever seen in my 22 years in the state legislature, when we turned away that Medicaid expansion money. Those are the things we cannot afford to do.
You talk about your 22 years in the South Carolina State Legislature. When you think back to, say, 1995 to now, what is the biggest difference about this South Carolina State Legislature in your mind?
I think, as I said at the beginning, there's more of a division. The president that we have now, the president of the United States, is a very divisive figure, and leadership creates a culture. And I think that the division is worse, the racism is worse. I've always been a part of the minority party, and I've always been able to work across party lines, still am. But there's a segment that's coming in the state legislature that, quite frankly, doesn't work with anybody. They don't work with Democrats, they don't work with Republicans, they just kind of on their own. And that's bad, because, again, the bottom line about serving an elective office, whether it's a state legislature, county council, school board, or whatever, it is about service. It is about giving of oneself. It's about being there to help people. That's the bottom line of this. And there's so many agendas now as it relates to quote unquote politicians. I can see why people don't like politicians, because there's so many games that are being played, as opposed to individually and collectively, what can we do to serve the public? It's an honor to serve. It's an honor to serve. So what can we do to help people on a day-to-day basis?
Why do people like you?
Well, you make an assumption. Well, thank you. Well, I think because I joke with folks because Barack Obama used this, but I really started as a quote unquote community organizer.
Okay.
With the Committee of Better Racial Assurance. Our signature program was our sickle cell anemia program,
Right.
which I still do consulting work with. We did work in hypertension. We did work in a lot of things as relates to the community, improving police community relations. It's been involved in a lot of things. I've done talk radio.
Right.
Next month will be 39 years of me doing talk radio. So it's been a long time. So really touching the community. This is the community I grew up in.
Right.
My parents are both retired educators in the school system. My wife is my campaign manager, and she's well known in the community. And we just our family has just always been a part of the community. It's the community that we love. So you tend in life to get back what you give, and we've given a lot of love because we love doing it, and people have been very kind to us.
39 years of the David Mack radio show. Which particular program describes you when you look back at over 39 years?
Whew, I never got that question before. I guess, I don't know if there's any one particular program. I think I tell young folks the way that I got involved in radio is I think a lesson, because I did not take broadcasting in college. I did not fill out a job application. I did not have an audition. I just kept hanging around the old WPAL, and one day Bill Saunders said, "Boy, come on in and get on the radio." He knew I had an interest.
Right.
He gave me my shot, and when he got ready to run in November 1979, he got ready to run for the state senate.
Right.
And he told me to take over his show, which was Open Rap, which was, that was, I'm like 25, 26 years old. That's like, my goodness. And that's like somebody taking over from Johnny Carson at his night show. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was blessed. The first three guests I had on was Bill Saunders, next was Montez Martin, and the next was Arthur Clement. I wanted to have three very good people on.
Right.
In case I was really awful, they can carry the show, And I just learned. But what I tell young folks from that is whatever your interest is, you just plug into it. How you started doing what you're doing. I'm sure you just had an interest, and as a little boy, you probably got in front of a microphone or pretended you were on television. That's what people do. I used to hold a pencil and talk into it, And one thing I tell young folks, for example, if you want to be a veterinarian, and I use that because I don't know any veterinarians.
Okay.
Find one. Go there. Tell him or her your interests. Tell them, hey, I'll work for free. I'll clean cages. I'll do whatever. I'll sweep the floor. I just want to be around you and learn. That's how you get plugged in. One of my mentors told me years ago, and it's well known. Everything is relationships, and he would say that people would say it's not what you know, but who you know. He would add a part on there. It's not who you know, but who knows you. And relationships are the key. So, and I tell young folks all the time, older folks are not going to find you. You have to find them and let them know you had an interest. Like with politics, McKinley Washington, Herbert Fielding,
Right.
Bob Woods.
Right.
I used to hang around those guys. And if I was in a meeting with them, if they asked me to sweep the floor after they leave, I would have done it. Because I was blessed to be in their company to learn.
And let me get back to Columbia, because you talked about earlier about the voting record. If I would look up your voting record, what would I see?
Progressive. People, we use labels, and, labels are, Not only good, but they do tell a story. You know, for example, some folks are just upset to be called the L word. I'm a liberal. Oh my goodness, don't call me a liberal. I don't care if you call me a liberal. Liberals ended slavery. Liberals fought for women to have the right to vote. So, you know, these things are spun in a way, but you could just put it in a nutshell and say, you know, we care about everybody. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Latino, Native American, whether you're male, female, it doesn't matter. We care about everybody. Society is judged by the way we take care of our children and the way we take care of our elderly. And we don't do as good a job with either one as a country. So those are the things we need to work on. You mentioned the school board.
Right.
Very, very critical, because our children right now, we have to give all of our children a chance to have a great education so we can find out what their God-given ability is, what they're designed to do. You know, but to do that, we have to touch them at the lower grades, make sure they're able to read, make sure they're able to function, give them love and attention, and also address whatever needs they have. For example, there are children not doing well in school because of the pure economics. There's no food in the house to eat. They're moving 3-4 times during the year because their parents are being evicted. There are situations like that are preventing them from learning. So we have to be able to handle those particular situations so that their natural God-given ability can come through and see what they're designed to do, what they were made to do, what contribution they were made to give to our community and our country.
And obviously, as you mentioned earlier, you're running for re-election. For those who are still sitting on the fence about David Mack, can you describe you again?
I care about people. Again, I mean, if those things interest you that I mentioned, a good public education, I am a firm believer in public education for everybody. I spoke on the House floor one time, and it was something having to do with a rural area. And I made a joke, I said, my house district is all concrete, but that doesn't matter, I'm still South Carolinian. So I am for this that has to do with rural areas. So that's the mentality that we have to have. But I'm for a good educational system for our children, well-paying jobs. I'm a labor guy. I think that people should be paid a decent wage. That's critical. We can do that and also advance the opportunities for businesses. And by the way, when people get paid more money, what do? They put it right back in businesses. Studies have been shown when you raise the minimum wage, businesses prosper from that. I'm a great proponent of people having health care. We have to look at some of the rural areas. We're blessed here in Charleston. We have the Medical University. We have the Roper. We have all of these medical entities that we have. Then there's a challenge of people having access to health care. But we also need to care about people in rural areas that don't have the access to health care. We have to think about infrastructures we talked about. That's something, you know, with these weather conditions we're having, these floods, they're wearing out roads and bridges. The Department of Transportation and all of these entities have done a very good job of assessing these structures, because some of these bridges are getting weak, and we have to deal with it. That's the type of government we have, which is a good thing. And we have to, when it comes to caring about people, okay, that's who I am.
And if you were to be reelected to the House of Representatives, what would you do on day one in your mind?
Continue to fight. Continue. We'll go right back to doing the same things. And again, you know, I'm in the minority party in South Carolina, so I've always had the ability to work across the aisle, okay, which is critical. When we brought Boeing here, right, I was one of the senior members of the legislature. I was one of the few members that knew when they were coming and how they were coming and what needed to be done for them to come, and worked with members of the Republican Party to get them here. Now, after we got them here, I've been working with employees and working with Boeing to work to raise the wages. So we want companies to come here, but we don't want them to come here because South Carolina is the poster child for low wages. So we have that dynamic going on too, also. But basically, if you want to use the term liberal, if you want to use the term progressive, I don't run away from that at all because I care about people, and it doesn't, and that means the black inner city kid and family, and also the white rural family that's facing the same thing. It's about people. We have to stop dividing ourselves in different ways and make sure that we understand that we're all in this together. We're all in this together. We all want the same things. So that's what we'll continue to communicate to folks, and that's why people should vote for me.
Representative David Mack, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you, Quintin. Always good to see you.
Likewise.